theatre, film, TV and more. Suzy Wrong reviews it all on Joy Drive.
Suzy Wrong.
Hey, has it been raining all week, or did I bring the rain?
You brought the rain with you from Sydney today. But you've also brought in two little friends.
I brought my two little laboo-boos. I can't believe you've never met any in person.
I've never seen them, but I've seen two today. One smaller than the other. What is it? You've got them on your bag,
I'm
on your
hanging
phone?
them on my phone because I'm not carrying a bag.
So every time you call... So hang on. Do you normally... Is that why they're here? So in Melbourne, they're on your phone?
Look, at winter time, I kind of wear coats, so I don't have to carry a bag because my coats have big pockets.
Right, okay.
But I still want my laboo-boo with me.
So you're attached to them that much?
So I am. I go out everywhere, like to Woolies and Coles. They come along with me.
Do you talk to them?
I talk to them, not in public.
Right.
And get this, like when I talk to them, I use a silly baby voice that I don't even use with human kids.
Okay, let's talk to them. Ask them ask them how they are.
No, I would say, did you enjoy Melbourne today? Like that. I don't use that voice with kids, but with these little dolls, I do. I don't know why.
I'm fascinated. I'm absolutely fascinated by them.
I'm waiting for the fad to die off. I'm seeing how long it's going to last. It doesn't seem like it's going to be a lifelong thing. I don't think there's any chance of it being a lifelong thing. But I'm interested to see how long the fad's going to last because it's still very popular.
Have you ever spoken like that, sort of forgotten that you're talking to someone rather than your Labubu dolls?
No. I am a control freak. I don't really do that sort of thing.
I love it. I think it's absolutely fascinating. I wonder if, and I know we're not here to talk about Labubu dolls today, but I'm just fascinated. I wonder if you could separate yourself from them now, or are you too attached?
Oh, not now.
No?
Not now. But I believe there will come a time when everyone gets sick of it. This is the thing about zeitgeisty things, right?
Mm-hmm.
They sort of come and go. I don't know. I know that people have lifelong kind of obsessions with Hello Kitty and various things. And what are those things that they go around catching?
Those the game. I can't think of the name.
Yeah, the little yellow things. So those things have been around for years and years. I don't know. It's been. I bought my first one. Must be 2.5 months ago, and I'm still obsessed with them. So we'll see.
All right. Well, call me when you're...
When I'm ready to dispose of my 30 Labubu.
Yeah. 30?
So far.
Hang on. I thought you just had 3. 2.
You can't carry more than, 4 each time.
So when you go to the supermarket, I'm fascinated by this. When you go to the supermarket, do you fill the trolley up with your Labubus and take them all?
No, I usually...
No, you can't have a chocolate today.
If it's a really casual... day, I'll carry 1 or 2.
Right.
Yeah, when I feel like I can be a little bit silly, I might carry 4 or 5.
Suzy, wrong. This is another side to you that I didn't know about, but I really like it actually. Now, Suzy, today we're talking about a show. It's called Stories from My Gay Grandparents. It's streaming on YouTube. Tell us what you thought of it.
Barbie and Rusty are both 72 years old and have been married to each other for more than 50 years. They appear one day completely out of the blue in the city of Toronto where their gay grandchildren, Mish and Mason, live and announce that they themselves are also gay, having been hiding in the closet together this whole time. The beards have come off. They're now fresh-faced and ready to meet the world in their complete truth. The Canadian web series, available on YouTube, Stories from My Gay Grandparents, is an unequivocal delight. A charming, smart, very funny, but also often very poignant award-winning series is just what the doctor ordered. We watch Mish and Mason fall in love with their grandparents in a new way, while taking them through comically awkward situations in the big smoke, introducing them to their queer community and a new queer life that involves strange things like dating apps, nude beaches, reclaimed language, and neutral pronouns. All 4 of the main characters are adorable, as are a host of supporting roles that pop up throughout the series. The cast is very strong, with really captivating performances that demonstrate a great level of detail put into the creative approach for this entire production. The writing is brilliant. The direction is superb. It looks and sounds much more polished than many web series we have encountered. Stories from My Gay Grandparents is simply a perfect little 10-part package of short 10-minute episodes. A rare occasion where chosen and biological families coincide. There is a warmth here that is truly special. I doubt if any of us will have intergenerational relationships that bond so intimately over mutual queerness. So it is a genuine pleasure to see things unfold in every effervescent episode of Stories from My Gay Grandparents. This show was recommended by a listener some months back. You know who you are. Thank you so much. I love this. Warren, a penny for your thoughts?
I loved it too. Watched it last night. I really enjoyed it. I didn't know what to expect. I thought, hang on. I thought we were talking about gay grandparents. We're clutching at straws now for storylines, but it turned out to be really good. I enjoyed watching it last night. Sat down and watched it, but it also made me a bit sad because I started reflecting on my own family and my own relationships. And one side of my family, and I don't want to reveal which side, but one side of my family, you never speak about gay. It's just unspoken. And it doesn't matter, even though my grandparents, for example, knew about me, it was never mentioned. It was never spoken about. And it's interesting because on that side of the family, there is, from previous generations, I remember there were men who never had relationships with anyone, who stood out to be a lot different from other men at the time, were very quiet, but at times got angry about things. And I always suspected as a teenager and in my 20s and thought, you know what, I reckon that they could be as well. And I'll never know because sadly they're no longer here. But it just made me sad because I thought of the loss. What if there was, I don't know what was going on, but what if they were and it was just so, let's use the word disgusting to speak about, that they went their entire lives not being able to talk about it. And that made me sad. But also, I would have had an amazing relationship with what were quiet relatives, probably observing me being out about myself, but thinking, oh, I wish I could have come out. But, you know, there's a big difference. I was probably born in the early 1900s and the time wasn't right for it. It made me really sad. And I thought, how lucky for this, even though this is a fictional story, how lucky for these two to have their grandparents coming out and sharing their life. I thought it was such a great story.
We certainly have queer ancestors. Not necessarily in our immediate family, but, I'm sure those exist. I do have a weird story similar to yours.
Tell us.
My father doesn't talk about the past. He doesn't tell us very much about where we come from, what his family was. I think he was one of 7 or something like that. But there was always this strange story about the oldest son in the family who never left the house. Yeah. So my father left at 17, 18, and then bumped into my mother at a party, and they were like 18 and 16 probably, and then they both kind of flew away from home. Yeah, just left. Kind of fell in love and ran away. So the opposite of that is the oldest son, my oldest uncle, I guess, who, from what I know, never left the home. So you can imagine all kinds of stories that people would imagine, and you think about, in those situations back in the 60s, 70s, in Asia, circumstances would have been impossible. I think for some people, they're able to have marriages, kind of, we don't want to call them sham marriages, but, probably nothing like a love marriage. And they kind of have families and get on with their lives. And then there would be some, probably more like me, where it's just not even a possibility to marry a woman and have kids. So back in those days, like, what do you do if you can't hold on to a job and all that? So I'm sure we all have family histories like that.
I think it's really sad, Suzy. I think it's because that's an entire life that's gone now has been suppressed.
Yeah. Back in the day,
Sad.
in Singapore, in Asia, I think there's a lot of shame around not just queer things, but also mental health things. So I draw that sort of connection there. Like if you're a queer person from that time who's not able to be in the closet, it probably would very easily develop into a very serious mental health issue, and probably it will be observable. Like people might not recognize that, oh, this person is a queer person struggling. But I think in Asia, it becomes oh, this person is crazy. And back in the day, there were a lot of like, oh, that person is crazy, that neighbor is crazy. Because there was a time when everything was a stigma. So everything becomes like, oh, that person's a bit off. But really,
That's so true.
Yeah, so everyone's just kind of hiding things, and then it manifests in weird ways, maybe.
That's really true. We're talking we're with Suzy Wrong in the studio. We're talking about stories from my gay grandparents, which you can catch on YouTube. Suzy, that is really true, because when I think of this particular relative of mine, he was known for, he wasn't angry. He was never angry with me or family, but he'd get irritated easily. And look, I know this is sort of speculation, but I'm sure that there was something there. And
there are very few reasons for that generation to not get married.
Yeah.
There's so much pressure to get married. People get married for, with people they're not attracted to, people that they're not in love with, because it was something that you had to do. So for people of that generation who never did marry, I would say a very high chance that they are LGBT.
Do you know what? I was having a chat to my personal trainer this morning in the gym, and we were talking about, I saw a news headline, and it was out of the United States about how the White House had said that they're going to crack down, I think, on left extreme groups or something like that. And I thought, well, maybe they should crack down on every extreme group, not necessarily just pick one side. And I got a bit triggered by it, thinking, oh my goodness, these more people are going to get attacked who are in minorities. And I looked at my trainer, who's a straight guy with an amazing body, very good looking, and not in an envious way, but I said to him, he said, oh, why are you getting so annoyed by it? I said, it's easy to, you can blend in, you know what I mean? You fit in. It's hard for us who are out to try and blend in with everyone else if we're a little bit different. And it takes a lot of energy, and I feel for these people there that will have to suppress themselves to try and hide, so that potentially they're not, picked on or shamed or whatever goes on. I just felt for them.
This sort of persecution of trans people in that part of the world, this week showed me that it's worse than I even imagined. Because we've heard reports, but I think because the reports have been, they keep repeating. It sounds like a non-stop circular reports from the USA and the UK of transphobia. After a while, you get a bit numb to it. But this week, with what happened with the political assassination and how, with no evidence at all, they were trying to, plant very early on the idea that it was another trans shooter. Yeah, that happened so quickly, and I could see that it was such an intentional project to kind of scapegoat people, and I could see how it showed me how brutal it was. This kind of turning everyone against trans people so that they have a common enemy, and I could see how serious they were at making this happen. So I don't know how trans people live there, and I could definitely see, those who haven't come out, they're not going to come out for God knows how long.
Exactly, and in similar, I suppose, to what we're talking about, our past relatives, is they now have to expend all this energy hiding themselves and not being their truth, not only hiding, but just not being themselves.
Now, for 50 years, Rusty and Barbie were hiding themselves. They were lucky because they had each other and they knew of each other. It wasn't hidden from them. They were kind of gay and lesbian friends from back in the day, and they thought with Stonewall maybe they were going to be able to come out, and then a really horrific incident happened. I think in Canada, it was quite a specific thing that they were referencing, and they had to all go back in the closet again. And they went back in the closet in the moment in the early 70s, and it became 50 years before
50
they could come
years.
out. 50 years.
Do you know, have you ever had those friends, Suzy, that have come out and they're a bit older and, it's almost, they're like kids, they're like teenagers. And I've got to admit, I've had that happen before. And in some way, you get a bit irritated. You're like, oh, here we go, because we've been through it. But I don't know, after watching this, I've got a newfound respect for these people. They're just becoming themselves. And it would be like a kid in a lolly shop.
Yeah, you have to be quite understanding. Queer trans people. Until very recently, trans people never came out young. Recently they they seem to be coming out in their teens, in Australia at least. And that's obviously a very, very incredibly lucky thing. I can't even wrap my head around it. But for generations, trans people, if we do come out, we will come out in our 30s, 40s, 50s. And it's a really joyful experience, but it's extremely awkward. You are extremely awkward. You are learning things that people learn at 13, 14 years old. Like
as an adult, and you're an adult too.
Like a mother would teach the daughter, sometimes, most of the time, really subconsciously, how a woman acts, how a girl acts, how a girl presents herself to the world. And then when you're learning that in your 40s, it's never elegant. It's never elegant. It's a tricky, hard thing. Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? So there's a lot of stuff that's actually not taught on blackboards and whiteboards. There's stuff that we just learn by, I suppose, osmosis, by being with our parents and observing our parents.
You have to observe, but that's only part of it, because you need to be able to practice. You need to be able to execute what you're learning. So you might be able to see what your parents are teaching your sister or your brother, but because doesn't apply to you, you kind of hold it in your mind until 20, 30 years later, and you try to do it.
Right.
Do what your sister did 30 years ago. It's very weird.
What's something awkward, do you reckon?
The dressing up thing.
Oh, really?
The dressing up thing is really weird because, like, you don't know how to put your body in a completely different wardrobe.
Oh.
And you have to imagine what you look like as a woman, not as a pubescent, prepubescent, but as a full-grown adult.
Oh.
Yeah. And fashion has so many different kind of parameters and rules, and your body has so many limitations because it takes a while before your body morphs a little bit.
Ah.
So you can't just kind of, shop in the different department at Zara and everything works. It's very complicated. It takes a long time. Your voice takes a long time to change if it ever changes.
It's a really slow process.
It's a really slow process.
Is it frustrating how slow it is?
For me, I think that the enjoyment of it kind of overshadowed everything. The kind of sudden burst of freedom. I just felt like, I just love this, and I didn't feel kind of the hardship of it, because it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of like being overly vigilant, And I say overly vigilant now because it's been some years for me. Back in the day, I would be very, very careful with how I present myself, how I speak, and stuff like that. Now I'm much more relaxed.
Now you're just Suzy Wrong.
I think so. I think I'm much more relaxed now because I'm much more confident in the gender that I inhabit. In the start, you always feel like I'm gonna look like a farce. I'm gonna look like I'm faking it. That's the hardest thing.
You mentioned the sense of freedom. How big is that? How can you describe how do you quantify that sense of freedom? Is it? Maybe I should ask the question this way.
It is. They call it gender euphoria,
right?
And that word is, I think, very appropriate. And I think that term gender euphoria kind of sounds like it might be a momentary thing, like, he or she was euphoric about their gender the morning that they put that outfit on. But for me, it felt like it was so prolonged. It felt like it was 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was like constant. And even if things didn't go very well, if people might misgender me at that time, or friends, family, use the wrong words, use my dead name and stuff like that, I felt just on a cloud the whole time.
Did you care if people made mistakes? Did you tell them off, or?
I felt like they could see that I was hurt. Yeah, and they could see that it was important that they use the right language. And I've said this on the show before. It took me like 35 years to come out to myself. So I can't expect people around me to kind of overnight transition along with me. So you got to give them time.
If you look, we spoke just before about sort of what's happening in the world at the moment and the pressure that puts on, I suppose, all minority groups, but in particular trans people at the moment. If we look at that and you look at that pressure and how stressful that is, and bearing in mind that you're here, not over there in the US, and then you look at what it's like to not transition and to spend all that energy suppressing yourself, are they comparable? Which one's worse, do you reckon?
Centuries of trans people never came out because it's simply not viable. The danger is too much. And even if you are in a place that is fairly liberal and, fairly welcoming, it's just too inconvenient. It's just too difficult. Like, there are places that you will feel like I'm going to go out and someone's going to shoot me. But there are places where you feel like, oh, but I live in a really liberal place. There's still just so many things, little considerations. And it's too hard. And I can completely understand that they are effectively winding back the clock quite a lot. And people are just not going to come out.
It's and the other thing I suppose that gets me is like, how many trans people are there in the world? Is it like 1% or something?
I think that sort of data is based on people who are able to either transition or are able to even admit. I think if it becomes really, really free, part of the evidence is this emergence of non-binary identities. I think non-binary identities only emerged because there was quite sudden acceptance of trans people, and then people felt like, oh, I don't have to adhere to this sort of gender identity that I have been assigned, or I have bought into. Doesn't mean that you have to jump over to the other gender identity. You simply have to decide that, what, I don't do these gender rules. And I think what that shows is so much of gender rules are so almost unnatural. So I think if over time, if people can kind of live outside of these prescribed notions of what gendered identities are, more and more people are not going to live according to them. And I don't know if that means they become trans. I just feel like more and more people are just not going to want to follow those rules.
But given that the numbers are so low, I think the thing that strikes me is even if someone is concerned or what have you, such a low percentage of people, why would you bother attacking? Like, why bother? There's so many other things in the world to worry about.
Because we are easily identifiable, one, and two, we have no power to fight back. They would only attack those who have no power to fight back, those who are enslaved, right? Or those who are undocumented migrants. They have no power. The undocumented migrants can't go to the cops and kind of attack back. They can't go to legal platforms and try to hit back. They simply have to cower and run away. So that's how that side of politics find their enemies.
A couple of messages coming in. This one, Shane from Wodonga says, I'm so glad you enjoyed my suggestion.
Oh, thanks, Shane.
So that was, Shane was the one who suggested stories from my gay grandparents, which you can stream on YouTube at as at the moment. And this one came in as well saying, "Hey Warren, your chat with Suzy Wrong reminds me of one of my cousins in Mumbai who was a little different, brilliant in school but quiet. He often got beaten up in public for some reason, so he was put on a shock therapy back in the 90s. This sounds absolutely terrible. Poor kid must have gotten fed up of all and disappeared at the age of 22 to never be found. It's been over 30 years and no one in the family talks about him." That's from Samir. And I think that's the sadness, isn't it? No one talks.
I feel like that's commonplace. Like, we don't classify those cases within our community. We don't kind of think of them as part of the LGBT community. We don't think about them as queer history because they never identified themselves as such. They never came out as such. But I think so much of that sort of mental health related things, issues and cases that we can think back, some of them, not obviously not all of them, but I think a healthy proportion of them would have been, the problems would have come up from having queer feelings, I guess.
And when I think about my family in particular and those relatives that I'm sure were gay, the awkwardness, the unspoken truth, the awkwardness, no one will ask the questions. No one will talk about the fact that there was never
today?
a relationship.
Is this still
No, they're no longer alive. But,
right.
But I just remember actually, you could cut the air with a knife. It was just so weird and no one said anything. No one went, "Hey, what's going on? Are you all right?" No one said.
That reminds
me. It was just
me,
silence.
That reminds me why some gay men are really flamboyant. It's cutting the silence, isn't it?
It's cutting the silence.
Yeah.
It really, and you smash it, and then, but no one did in our family, and it sounds like this is what's happened in Samir's family as well. No one did that, and then these poor people just. I don't know. It's very sad, Suzy Wrong. The other thing I took from stories from my gay grandparents was, I suppose, visibility of older queer people. It is so important, isn't it? And the good thing about this show is they didn't shame the older people, which is what a lot of people do out there. Let's face it. A lot of, I know from gay men perspective, are shamed.
I think there was an entire episode on how they were dressed, how they would change their dress. It was really great. I love that they went to the nude beach,
Yes, a nude beach.
And there was a whole discussion about being proud of yourself to the extent that you have to shed your shame about your own nudity.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to a nude beach?
I have, before I transitioned.
Right. Okay.
I don't know how I'm gonna cope with it now, but it certainly made me think. The representation of old people is excellent in these because they are portrayed as old. They're not pretending to be anything else, but they are also portrayed to be extremely open. Because they are seeking a new existence, they're seeking a new chapter at a very late time, and how they wanted so much to belong to a community that they've longed for, and they were able to make adjustments to their own lives at some place in some parts of their own lives, and then in some places, I think they understood that this is who I am, and I don't have to change everything about me as well.
Suzy Wrong, I could talk for another hour because I don't get you in the studio that often. I love having you here, but we've run out of time. But it's always good to chat with you. What are we watching next week?
We go on a lesbian road trip next week from Philadelphia to Tallahassee in the movie Drive Away Dolls, streaming on Paramount Plus, or you can rent it at all the usual platforms. A light-hearted crime caper for when I see you next Tuesday.
Suzy Wrong, enjoy your time in Melbourne. Catch you next time.